Hi, I'm Justin Cassio, and I write Mafia Genealogy. Today, I'm going to talk about how I do my research. I'm going to talk about different types of evidence that are used in genealogy, and I'm going to walk you through drawing a family tree using one of those types of evidence. And then I'm going to have you come up with some questions that you want to answer about your family. So, let me start where I started. I knew the name of the town where my family is from, but I didn't know when they came, and I didn't know exactly who they were. I didn't really know much about them. I had a couple of facts, but I couldn't connect the dots. I couldn't make a story out of it. It was first we were there and now we're here, but there wasn't a story about how we did that. And so it didn't really make a very big impression on me. And so I'd like to help you make a story about your family so that it's not just a bunch of facts strung together, it's a story that is meaningful to you. When I got started, I didn't know what I wanted to know. I didn't know what was knowable. I didn't know what I could find out. And some of what I was told about my family was not entirely true. I knew that I wanted to know enough. I wanted to know that I knew something that felt real and felt true. And I didn't want somebody else to spoon feed it to me either. I wanted to earn that knowledge. I wanted to have wrestled with the histories and the records and the family stories and come out with something that wasn't just a recitation. It was my story, and I knew it like my own. I also needed this process to be somewhat accessible, because let's be real, I don't have unlimited time, neither do you, to do genealogy. Where I live now is not someplace that any of my ancestors have ever lived. And if I lived in the town where they had lived, I would be able to go to my local city hall, my local library, and I'd be able to get access to records and newspapers that were specific to that town. And they would tell me more about the lives of my ancestors than I can find out at my local library here. Although, to be fair, my library is very helpful for genealogy, and I will, in a later video, talk about some of the resources that you will be able to find, hopefully, in your local library. And the limitations of not being near where my family was from here in the United States is just one part of the problem. Then there's my ancestors who lived in Italy, and I have never been to Italy. Maybe I should make a Patreon campaign to send me to Italy. Wouldn't that be a great idea? And so all of the Italian records that I've used, they came from digital or microfilm archives here in the US. And I'm going to show you how to use those records, which are free to access and is a very easy process. These are the same tools that I use every day. By the end of this video series, I'll show you how to build a family tree, where to look for evidence that will answer your questions, how to use documents to prove a claim, and how to record your findings and share them with others. There are a lot of kinds of evidence, and the best stories use a wide variety of them. A story that's made up from nothing but marriage records will tell you the names of the people that are in your tree, but not much else. So some types of evidence that are used in genealogy are vital records, such as births, baptisms, marriages, and deaths, newspapers, like wedding announcements, arrests, public figures, obituaries, personal recollection, that is your own memories, and family lore that has been passed down to you. Interviews with the people who were there, sharing their memories and their special knowledge. Histories are complete narratives that put events into a context and into relationship with one another. So how do you take all of these different kinds of information and turn them into a family tree or a story about your family or somebody else's family? There's a general way of answering that, but I think that we learn better from specific examples. I work on mafia subjects using the same types of evidence that I used to answer questions about my own family. My advice on how to formulate questions and answer them is applicable to anyone doing genealogy, but it'll be most helpful if you or the families that you're studying are Italian American. You're going to want to buy some kind of software. Rather, find, not buy. Find software that will help you keep track of relationships and the biographies of the people that are in your family tree. I like WikiTree because it's free, it's collaborative, it's on the cloud, and that makes it really easy for me to share profiles because everyone has a URL. I use WikiTree for most of my work. Sometimes I use GenoPro because it's better for creating a shareable family tree that'll only show the relationships that I want to focus on. And I will be using it in this video to be sure. If you're just starting, you can draw your family tree on a piece of paper or write it out in a document. Sometimes my first notes are not in tree form. They're just the people that I'm working on, that I'm taking notes on, one after the other. You know, I'll start with a gangster, and then I'm working on his father, then I'm working on his mother, and then his mother's father, and eventually that gets messy, which is why you need something that is going to hold your notes in the same shape as a family tree. So this is the part where I'm going to tell you how to make a family tree. A family tree is made up of people. So the first thing that you're going to do, whatever you're using, whether it's WikiTree or Family Search or GenoPro, or you're writing this out on a piece of paper, is you're going to make a person that is the beginning of your family tree. So that is you. And you can make a family tree about anybody who interests you. But let's start by making your family tree. So write your name and the date and the place that you were born. And eventually you're going to come back to this and you're going to create a whole biography that gives a chronology of the events in your life. But you're not going to do that right now. You're going to do that later. Right now, we're just making a bare bones tree. So filling it out completely is going to take over your whole life. Sorry if you're just getting into genealogy. Let me break it to you now. You're going to be doing this forever. Ask anybody else who does genealogy. Ask them how long they've been working on it. This is the puzzle with no end, and its subject is you. So, okay, back to the family tree. Who are your parents? Put them in the tree next. Their full names of birth, any nicknames that they have, date of birth, place of birth, marriages, dates and places for those marriages, other children your parents have. If you have multiple marriages in your family tree, that's not a problem. And for the purposes of a family tree, any union that results in a child is represented the same way as a marriage, whether they have children or not. We're interested in two things here: who marries who, and who children's parents are. Sometimes this gets complicated. How do you draw that? So for now, try to keep it simple. If you're adopted and trying to choose which parents to trace, just pick whose tree you want to work on first and include them in your drawing. You can always add to your tree later. And you build up from your parents to add your grandparents, aunts and uncles, marriages, kids, and you build down from you the same way. Somewhere along the way, you're going to come to someone you don't have complete information on. Write it down. Put that in the biography with a label that says open issue so that later on you can find it when you're looking at this person's profile and you're working on them. Open issue. I don't know when my aunt and uncle's wedding anniversary is or where they got married. So at some point, if I'm a good family genealogist, I'm going to find that out and put that in their bio. Not every question is going to feel as pressing to you. If you don't know your aunt and uncle's anniversary, not a big deal, right? I mean, you still know they're married to one another, you know who your cousins are. If your research goals change and it becomes important to find that out, you will. Most people, when they're building a family tree, they just want to go up, 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 up. Who are my 200th great grandparents? Do I descend from kings? Do I descend from Adam and Eve? Do I descend from dinosaurs? How far back in time can you get in your family tree? That depends on where your ancestors were born and when, and what kind of records would have been kept for your family in that time and place. Most Italian Americans have Catholic roots, which means that potentially there are records going back to the 1500s for your family. Sometimes it's harder to find our records from right after immigration than it is from 200 years ago. There can be this kind of hyper focus, and I've mentioned this before, on the names of our ancestors out of context. And that gives you a tree, but not a story. And I'm convinced that it's the stories that give the tree meaning. That's why taking a broader view, getting away from the records and into the history of our people and the local histories of the places that your family lived are such an important element in telling the story of your family. Think about it. You want your family to be excited about what you're discovering, right? So what do? Do you tell them the names? Do you just show them the tree? No, you tell them a story. So let's get back to this tree that you're drawing. This is a tool, okay? It's a tool. It's for keeping your notes straight because family trees are not linear like a document, they branch. And after a few generations, that Word document with all the headings, that gets hard to navigate. So find a genealogy program you like and use it to keep your relationships in order. Congratulations! You've made a first run at your family tree using one of those genealogical sources, which is your own personal recollection. You're an expert on your own family, though not an infallible one. We're going to add to this when we get into the records in the next video, and one thing we'll be doing is checking our work. How embarrassing is this? My favorite grandmother, okay, and I didn't know her last name at birth. How did I never ask her? I had to find it out by doing genealogy. There was so much I didn't know about my family, how we got here, who was in their families, how they lived. It's okay. There are a lot of lost facts that we can recover. As you're building this tree and becoming aware of the holes in your knowledge, all of those open issues, these are opportunities to begin research. In the videos that follow, I'll go into more depth on what kind of resources are available to help you fill those gaps in your knowledge and answer questions, how to begin a research project using the scientific method to solve a genealogy mystery, uh, where do you learn that, or how to get back to the source of a claim you used as evidence, and how to tell other people where you found it too, and how to read some of the sources that are used in Italian American genealogies, including records that are handwritten and in Italian or Latin. I know that sounds like a lot, but I promise you can do this. You've got some family tree drawing to do, so no rush, but whenever you're ready, come back for the next video. I'll be here. And please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this, support Mafia Genealogy on Patreon.